What's up guys? So I know it's been a minute since I did a more comprehensive build video for these classes, and instead of just highlighting individual builds, for this year we will be covering the best in slot for each specialization of a particular class: the Heal spec, the Power DPS, the Condi DPS, and the Boon Support. And lastly, I will include my preference for an open world build for that class as well. To get things started, we are going to get down with the Ranger, which fills all of its roles pretty comfortably and is fairly easy to learn and play in all of these roles. So to start, let's cover the Power DPS option for this class, which is the Power Soulbeast. The Power Soulbeast is one of the best burst classes in the game, and it really shines in fights that have short phase windows, so that way you can just blast. Encounters that are power oriented, like the fractal CMs of Shattered Observatory and Nightmare, raid encounters like Gorseval, Keep Construct, or Conjured Amalgamate, and most strike missions are all good encounters for this class. This build is also incredibly easy to gear with full Berserker gear, Runes of the Scholar, Relic of the Firework. Your weapons are going to be Hammer and Axe, running standard power foods, so sous vide steak or butternut squash and superior sharpening stones, and your pet is going to be the pig. Your traits are going to be Skirmishing 1-2-3, Beast Mastery 3-3-3, and Soulbeast 2-2-3, and the only alteration would be swapping the last trait on the Soulbeast line from Oppressive Superiority to Leader of the Pack, which I will cover why you would do that when we get into the utilities. Your utilities are going to be Sikkim, Frost Trap, and Signet of the Wild, with one wolf pack being your elite. These are more or less damage modifiers, and you want to use your setup or your big burst window with these skills. You can get away with replacing either Frost Trap or Signet of the Wild, and if you were going to replace one, I would replace Frost Trap or Dolyak Stance, which you would also swap out that Soulbeast trait from Oppressive Superiority to Leader of the Pack. And the reason why you do this is to provide stability to your subgroup. It's always nice if you are running with a squad that lacks stability access to be able to swap this trait and throw that skill in there to just help your team out. The general playstyle of this build is to use a CC ability to maintain twice as vicious, which is a trait buff, as a damage modifier. Then you pop Sikkim, one wolf pack, and then you plow through as many high damaging abilities as possible. This is going to be your Hammer 2 skill, your Hammer 4 skill, your F1 skill, all of your axe skills, excluding your auto attack, and then you want to channel your skill 5. That is your primary opener, and you will be cycling through the loops as the cooldown of your F2 skill, which is Charge on the pig, comes off cooldown. Ultimately, the opener on this build is your primary thing that you want to know, since with burst classes stacked up, you can often phase the boss with just more or less your opening burst, and then kind of let all your skills reset while you're doing the phase, and then pop your opener again and phase them again. The speed of your skill use while you're in your one wolf pack and Sikkim window is the primary way you are going to get your damage, alongside your axe skill 4 and axe skill 5. So you want to make sure you get that channel off while you're in that window for the highest DPS numbers. Moving on, we have the Condi DPS option, which is actually two options for the Ranger. You have a Conditioned Soulbeast and you have the Conditioned Druid. I personally feel like the Conditioned Druid is more of a pug-friendly build, as you have a little bit more built-in utility with the Druid form, so that is the build I am choosing to cover here. Both have similar disadvantages, so it's really up to preference if you want to rock Soulbeast or if you want to rock Druid as your Condi DPS option. For the Condi DPS Druid, you are going to gear full Vipers with Runes of the Trapper and Relic of the Fractal. Your weapons are going to be Axe and Dagger Torch with Sigil of Agony, Geomancy, and Agony Earth, respectively. Your food is going to be standard Condi food, being cilantro cured meat flatbread and toxic focusing crystals, and your pet is going to be the Jacaranda. For your traits, you are going to be running Skirmishing 1-3-3, Wilderness Survival 3-1-3, and Druid 3-3-3, with your skills being Spike Trap, Signet of the Wild, Sharpening Stone, and Entangle. If you want the highest DPS option, you are going to want to run Viper's Nest, Glyph of Alignment and Sharpening Stone along with Entangle as your utilities, but I'll cover that a little bit later. The rotation for this build is fairly complicated with the weapon swap. So the primary focus that you want to get into is Celestial Avatar mode. That is going to be included in between spamming your weapon skills. So Celestial Avatar, you want to channel your skill 5 while you use skill 2, and then you want to use Lunar Impact and then get out of CA mode. If you're kind of slow, you can pop your skill 2 again before you spam your skills. The way this regular DPS option plays out is you want to spam your utility skills off cooldown. You want to spam your weapon skills. Once those are on cooldown, you go into Celestial Avatar mode, you go through that rotation, you come out of Celestial Avatar mode, spam all your weapon skills again, weapon swap, bam, CA, bam, weapon swap, bam, CA, spam. That's how this build kind of plays out. Now there is a low intensity version made by Mazel who basically advises you use your CA mode and your Dagger Torch set. So if you use your Dagger Torch set and you spam those skills and then you go into CA mode and spam that, and then you come out and you focus on just that one weapon set in your CA mode with your utility skills and spamming your Jacaranda pet skill, you will get pretty high DPS just off that simplified rotation. And I'm going to say this is not the best Condi DPS build, nor is it going to compete with the likes of Virtuosos, Scourges, or Renegades on most encounters. However, it is a Condi class, so if you are in a Condi encounter, it would be better than using the power option for this build. If you are going to play Ranger in particular and you really want to play Ranger as a Condi class, you can use this build. However, there are better options available. Just wanted to put that out there. Moving on, we have the Heal Druid. The Heal Druid is an absolute powerhouse healer. However, it is not a very easy class. The difference between a good druid and a bad druid is pretty large. However, a good druid is absolutely invaluable in terms of the utility and healing output that it can provide. This was actually the first heal build that I ever learned how to play way back when Heart of Thorns was the only thing out. So let's get into it. For gear, we are running full Harrier's gear with Runes of the Monk. You can run full Harrier's trinkets, or you can incorporate some Giver stats. The optional would be a Giver's Ring, an amulet, and an accessory, with everything else being Harrier's. You run Relic of Caracosa, or you can run like Relic of the Monk if you don't have Caracosa unlocked. Additionally, if you want to tank, you can run Minstrel's gear or any kind of toughness gear. Your weapons are going to be Mace Warhorn and Staff with Sigil of Paralyzation and Transference on both sets. And your food is going to be standard heal food, which is the rice balls and bountiful maintenance oil or bowl of fruit salad. Traits are going to be marksmanship 331, nature magic 223, and druid 221. Your pets are going to be the Iboga and the electric wyvern, and these are just basically big break bar boys. They are going to be used for break bars more than anything. And your skills are going to be Glyph of Rejuvenation, Sun Spirit, Stone Spirit, Glyph of Equality, and Glyph of the Stars. Your primary healing and boon production is going to be from your Celestial Avatar mode, and you get CA juice from doing damage or healing others. So make sure you are cycling through your weapon skills using Warhorn 5, using Mace 2, and your other skills. There are a lot of different combos you can use in CA. CA2 can be used while you are channeling CA4, and your CA skills are what provide alacrity, so make sure you dip into this mode frequently to upkeep your boons and provide healing. You don't need to drain it each time, but you should be able to get back your CA mode. Even if you do drain it, your boons should not drop off. Stability is provided through Glyph of Equality and Glyph of the Stars, and Glyph of the Stars also works to help res down allies as like a ranged res in the case you use it in CA mode. Your CC is mostly handled through pet skills, the Celestial Avatar skill 3, which is Lunar Impact, Mace 3, Warhorn 5, and Glyph of Equality. There are a lot of druid guides out there, and I advise you just kind of get in there and start playing with it. I trust you will learn how it works and you get used to the energy mechanic. There are plenty of other ranger players out there that really love this build and have really in-depth guides on how this particular build works. So if you want more info, I will have a relevant video in the comment description below that kind of goes more in depth from a different creator. The last build for the Ranger is going to be their Boon DPS option, which in this case takes the form of the Power Quickness Untamed. There is a Condi DPS Quickness Untamed, which basically uses the same stats as the Condi Druid I mentioned earlier, but you will essentially just apply the Untamed Unleash rotation part of this power build to the Condi Druid rotation if you want to run the Condi Untamed version of this build instead of the power version. The Power Quickness Untamed uses full Berserker gear with Runes of the Firework, Relic of the Claw, which is a new Janther Wilds relic, and you could use Fireworks or Thief if you don't own Janther Wilds. Its weapons are going to be Hammer and Sword Axe with Force and Impact sigils on both sets using power food, so Butternut Squash or Sous Vide Steak and Superior Sharpening Stones. Your pets are going to be the Lynx and the Iboga with the Storm Spirit, Frost Trap, Signet of the Wild, and your elite is basically free. Forest Fortification, Spirit of Nature, or Entangle are all good options here. Your heal is also free, so if you want some extra group utility, you can run Healing Spring, but if you are running solo, I'd recommend Perilous Gift. Your traits are going to be Nature Magic 1-2-1, Skirmishing 1-2-3, and Untamed 3-3-1. You generate boons from transferring the Unleash from your pet to yourself and then using an ambush skill, and then you weapon swap and use the ambush skill again. So you start with Unleash Pet, you use your hammer skills similar to the Power Soulbeast rotation. Using Storm Spirit and Frost Trap, you unleash yourself, use your Unleash Ambush, which is your hammer skill 1, and then you weapon swap, use your sword skill 1 for the other ambush, and then you would run your basic axe DPS rotation, so Axe 4 and then Axe 5. You would run through until your weapon swap is off cooldown, cycle your Unleash to your pet, use your pet skills, bring it back to yourself, and then use your skill 1, weapon swap, skill 1, and then spam your weapon skills. The most important thing about this build is to manage that Unleash Pet to Unleash Ranger portion along with using your ambush skill, weapon swap, ambush skill, because that is how you provide quickness. The rest is more or less a priority filler section where you are filling out the rest of the DPS. Even if it is suboptimal, you will eventually figure out which skills do the most damage in the which order. So as a Boon DPS, if you fill that primary role of maintaining quickness, then you can start working on the DPS part after that. So focus on the Unleash Ambush skill weapon swap portion of the loop, and then once that part is done, you can fill in the rest of the rotation. The last build I'm going to cover is for the open world, and I'm going to recommend the Power Untamed. It is basically the same as the Quickness Untamed, and Untamed has a lot of self-healing and survivability. It ultimately does run the same gear, except it has a little less optimal for DPS and has a little more flexibility. The open world is more or less a giant sandbox, and you don't really need to be min-maxed to run around here. I personally like running with Mace, Axe, and Spear, although you can run Greatsword or Hammer if you don't own Janther Wilds. Additionally, you can run damage sigils like Force or Impact, or you could run Concentration for more boon uptime, and so on. The relic for this is Noros, which gives big damage and defense bonuses after you strip boons off enemies, which you do with your Unleashed skills. So playing the open world version of the Untamed will definitely help you get more comfortable with the way the Power Quickness Untamed build works. It is essentially the same, except just a little less optimized. And that is all of the meta 2024 Ranger builds right now in PVE. And if you are a pro Ranger player and you want to share some tips, feel free to drop them in the comments below. I want to thank you all for watching. A special thanks to all of my subscribers. And if you dig the content, please consider subscribing. Thanks again, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.